Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 18 2021 NFL predictions. Well, what a first for this channel, and what a first for the NFL, as this is my first ever Week 18 regular season video. And I want to say to everybody out there, Happy New Year. It is 2022. It is hard to believe we are already 2 years into the into the 2020s. And it's been a crazy 2 years in the 2020s. I hope everybody's out there is excited for the new year. It's kind of awesome that we have one more regular season week of football. And it's a great little track of football. If you look at this week, this Saturday we have 2 big primetime games on ESPN/ABC. We have all the Sunday games. And then we have the College Football National Championship that Monday night, which is going to be great, between Georgia and Alabama. But to go into the new year, for my against the spread and straight up picks, it was a mixed bag in terms of where my against the spread picks fell off a good bit. And straight up, though, I had the best week I've had the entire regular season. So I'm starting with the new year very hot and in a great spot. So last week against the spread, I went 7-8. And straight up, I went 13-2. That equals up to 46.8% against the spread. And straight up, that equals about 87% straight up. So, and now overall for the year against the spread, I am 118 and 132 with 5 pushes. And straight up now, I am 166, 88, and 1. That equals up to 47.3% against the spread. And straight up, that equals up to 65.3%. So against the spread, I'm not going to get to 500 with the way I've been picking games, unless I had a 14-2 week against the spread, which I don't think I've ever had. I'm going to be below 500 for the regular season once again. So I do my best with these against the spread picks. Some of the picks I've regretted against the spread were the Broncos and Chargers. When I found out about Drew Lock, or when I found out about Bridgewater not playing and Drew Lock getting hurt in the game, and Billy Ripien was the quarterback for the majority of that game. That pretty much ruined that one. The Niners, Texans, even with Jimmy Garoppolo out, I thought the Texans would put up a little bit of a better fight than they had the previous 3 weeks. They did not. They were pretty much 3-and-out for a majority of the game. They had that one drive to go up 7-3, and besides Trey Lance's really bad pick in that second or third drive, he played a good game, and they won by 16. So I only missed by a point there. And the Titans-Dolphins, that was the other big one. I thought that Titans-Dolphins spread was a little small, but I thought the Dolphins put up a fight. Obviously, the Dolphins came back down to earth. They went from big grown Dolphins to little baby minnows once again. And the Miami Minnows got eliminated and beat up by the Titans in a 34-3 beating. And I want to congratulate the Tennessee Titans as well for winning the AFC South for the second consecutive year and moving into the 1 seed as Cincinnati Bengals beat the Kansas City Chiefs 34-31 to knock them down to the 2 seed. So those are some of the against the spread picks I've regretted. The one pick I actually was surprised with this week was the Raiders pulling off the big upset pulling off the upset against Indianapolis Colts, 23-20 off another Daniel Carlson field goal. They have won, I believe, 4 or 5 games this year with Daniel Carlson's foot, which is incredibly impressive for him. He's having one of the great years, and he's arguably a top 6 to 8 kicker in this game. Former Auburn kicker. But that was the one pick where, as soon as if anybody noticed on my video, I made a pinned comment when Carson Wentz got put on the COVID-19 list that I was going to take the Raiders to win against the spread straight up, just outright. But then when I found out that Carson was coming back into the game, he got cleared yesterday morning by the Indianapolis doctors, I thought, oh, the Colts were going to win it. And then the Colts and Raiders play. Carson gets that ridiculous lucky touchdown to T.Y. Hilton that puts him up 4. Carr throws 2 picks in the game. And it's that big 4th and 2 conversion that got him the lead to put him up 20-17 that set up the Raiders at the last drive to get the Carlson field goal victory. So the one pick I messed up and regretted, that was the one pick I regretted, but I got it right. So I will take that very happily. I want to congratulate the Packers for getting the number 1 seed. Aaron Rodgers, another great game. The Vikings were without Kirk Cousins, who tested positive for COVID on Friday. He was needed. I don't think he would have overcome 27 points. However, I do think that game would have been much more competitive. And I want to congratulate the Bengals again for winning the AFC North. Joe Burrow, most yardage in 2 back-to-back games. And Jamar Chase is the best rookie wide receiver in NFL history. His numbers proved it with his 266-yard game, 3 touchdowns. And he broke Justin Jefferson's single-season record of over 1,407 yards in his rookie campaign. So congratulations for the Bengals on that one. All right, so those are my quick thoughts from last week, and I'll talk about the other games as well as I go through my picks. But this is the weird week. It's the last week of the year. Pretty much most of the teams besides the Packers and a couple of the other NFC teams are going to be playing either just meaningless games or games where they have something on the line. So this will be an interesting set of picks, and things could change. But here are my Week 18 picks. So on Saturday, when the 11-5 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 7-9 Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs here, minus 9.5, and the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. And then on Saturday night, when the 11-5 Dallas Cowboys go to Philadelphia to take on the 9-7 Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Dallas Cowboys here, minus 3.5, and the Dallas Cowboys straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 10-6 Cincinnati Bengals travel to Cleveland, take on the 8-8 or 7-9 Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are 3-point favorites in this game. Due to the circumstance of the Bengals basically knowing that they should be a 3 or 4 seed, depending on what happens, I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns here, minus 3, and the Cleveland Browns straight up for this game. Then the next game, when the 13-3 Green Bay Packers travel to Detroit to take on the 13-1 Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers are 11-point favorites in this game. I think that's a crazy line due to the circumstance of the game, to where the Packers have nothing else to play for, so I think a majority of their guys are going to rest, and Aaron Rodgers is not going to play. And I think with the Lions, and as bad as they've been, they got blown out by the Seahawks. The second highest scoring game of the year, it was 51-29. I think the Packers are good enough, even with Jordan Love in his competitive games he had against the Chiefs in his one start earlier this year. I think the Green Bay Packers win this game, but I'm going to take the Detroit Lions plus 11 against the spread. Then the next game, when the 6-10 Chicago Bears travel to Minnesota to take on the 7-9 Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me the Minnesota Vikings here, minus 3, and the Minnesota Vikings straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-10 Washington football team travels to the New York Giants to take on the 4-12 New York Giants, the Washington football team are 6.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Washington football team here, minus 6.5, and the Washington football team straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-7 Indianapolis Colts travel to Jacksonville to take on the 2-14 Jacksonville Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts are 15.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Indianapolis Colts here, minus 15.5, and the Indianapolis Colts straight up. Excuse me. Then the next game, when the 8-7-1 or 7-8-1 Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Baltimore to take on the 8-8 Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are 4.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Baltimore Ravens here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 4.5. Then the next game, when the 11-5 Tennessee Titans travel to Houston to take on the 4-12 Houston Texans. The Tennessee Titans are 11-point favorites in this game. Give me the Tennessee Titans here, minus 11, and the Tennessee Titans straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-8 New Orleans Saints travel to Atlanta to take on the 7-9 Atlanta Falcons. The New Orleans Saints are 4.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Atlanta Falcons here, plus 4.5, but I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-12 New York Jets travel to Buffalo to take on the 10-6 Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 17-point favorites in this game. And I know last time the Bills played the Jets, they smoked them, and that was Mike White. I'm going to give Zach Wilson his due, okay? And I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills here to win straight up, but I think Zach Wilson is enough of an upgrade, and what I've seen over the last couple weeks, I think he can play well enough against the Bills to win this game by at least 6, or to hold this game to at least a 16-point margin. So that's why I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills here to win straight up with the New York Jets plus 17. Then the next game, when the 10-6 New England Patriots travel to Miami to take on the 8-8 Miami Dolphins. The New England Patriots are 6-point favorites in this game, giving the New England Patriots here minus 6, and the New England Patriots straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-11 Carolina Panthers travel to Tampa Bay to take on the 12-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 8-point favorites in this game, giving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here minus 8, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-7 San Francisco 49ers travel to Los Angeles to take on the 12-4 Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams are 5.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Los Angeles Rams here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers plus 5.5. Then the next game, when the 6-10 Seattle Seahawks travel to Arizona to take on the 11-5 Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are 6.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Arizona Cardinals here minus 6.5, and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. And finally, in game 272, the first ever regular season, 17-game regular season, when the 9-7 Los Angeles Chargers travel to Las Vegas to take on the 9-7 Las Vegas Raiders in a win-and-in game. The Los Angeles Chargers are 3-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Chargers here to make the playoffs, and the Los Angeles Chargers minus 3, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. So my 7 teams in the AFC will be the Titans as the 1 seed, the Chiefs as the 2 seed, the the Bills as the 3 seed, the Bengals as the 4 seed, the Pats as the 5 seed, the Colts as the 5 seed, the Pats as the 6 seed, Pats as the 5 seed, Colts as the 6 seed, and the Los Angeles Chargers get in 10-7 as the 7 seed. Alright, so time for my quick thoughts on each game. The Kansas City Chiefs over the Denver Broncos. This is one to where the Chiefs put up a great fight. They were up 14 early on the Bengals. They pretty much had the lead. Mahomes played a good game overall. He had about 265 or 255, 265 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. But at the end of the day, that Chiefs defense got exposed again. Chase had that 266-yard day. T. Higgins making some big contributions. Joe Burrow throwing for 440. Giving up a 3rd and 27 on the game-winning drive. That was really concerning. And it shows you, I think to me, how good the Bengals are compared to how bad the Chiefs are. And it's unfortunate the Titans it's fortunate for the Titans hit the Chiefs at their lowest point, because when they lost 24-3 back in week 6 or 7, that was before they started on this 8-game winning streak. And, it's one of those things to where I think the Chiefs, look, the Broncos are in a complete disaster. They didn't have a lot of guys on the COVID list, and that showed. Herbert had another good game. Andre Roberts had the big kick return touchdown. Ripien really couldn't get anything going. They really couldn't run the ball effectively. I think a lot of those guys should come back, but they played the Broncos in week 12. They lost 22-3. I don't think Mahomes has ever lost to Denver in his career, no matter what happens. I don't know if Locke, Bridgewater, or Billy Ripien are going to play. And I think the Broncos are just not very good. Cortland Sutton had a great year, and Gordon had some nice flashes. The secondary, you have a decent secondary there. Justin Simmons had a very good year again. But I think for the Broncos, this is just a game that they're going to play for, but they're playing for nothing. I think the Chiefs, look, they've been dominant. Like, Andy Reid's only lost 3 or 4 divisional games over the last several years under Mahomes. They understand what's at stake. They're going to play their starters because they don't know if Tennessee, who's already lost to Houston anyway due to Tyrod, is going to even, they don't know. Because Houston's already beaten them, so you can't say, well, Tennessee should roll over them. They did it already. No, they didn't. But I'm going to take the Chiefs here. Just a better overall talented team. They did lose their one guard, Niang, so that's gonna be a big injury moving forward. But I don't think it's gonna impact them that much in this game. I think the Chiefs, they just have more talent, they have more consistency, and Mahomes is just gonna be able to beat the tar out of the Denver defense with his limited pass rush and with his limited offensive weapons they have, especially a quarterback, whoever it is. If Bridgewater can't go again, I wouldn't even put Bridgewater out there if he's cleared. Like, this game is a meaningless game. The Broncos are going to play it. Vic's going to get fired at the end of this year, hopefully. I think he's been that bad of a coach. But the Chiefs win. They won by 13 last time. There's not that much changed. The Chiefs understand what they have to do to at least lock the 2 seed. And I think they should play for that, even if the Titans win. They should play for the 2. And I think with the talent they have, the way they've been playing consistently, I don't think that the Broncos' offense is nearly going to be as effective as the Bengals. They don't have the talent or the quarterback. And they at least won by 10 points. Just due to the consistency, the history, and just the expectation of both squads. I think the Chiefs come prepared to play another good game, to win 9 of their last 10 games, to get the 2 seed, and still, I think, be the overall favorite, even over the Titans going into the Super Bowl, to represent the AFC once again. So that's why I like the Kansas City Chiefs here, minus 9.5, and the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. The next game, the Dallas Cowboys over the Philadelphia Eagles. This one's going to be tough. A little bit tougher because it's one of those things to where I don't think the Cowboys are going to be playing for anything. The highest they could get is the 3 seed. And I just don't know about the Cowboys. They already locked up the division. They already locked up a playoff spot. They played a weird game against the Cardinals to where I thought the defense pretty much held its own. But Dak and the offense struggled mightily and really badly. And I look at the Cowboys and say, even if they don't have Dak, per se, let's just say I think Cooper Rush, with what we've seen, can beat this Eagles team. The Eagles fortunately made the playoffs, so this win or loss does not matter. I think it might affect the Saints. Actually, well, it'll affect the Saints in a way. But I just think for the Cowboys, I think their roster is just a little bit better. I thought that the Washington football team had its runs, where you could see, they were able to run the ball. Heineke had a solid game up to the end with that interception. But they kept it close against Washington, who just a week before got pantsed by the Cowboys themselves. But I just think, again, the Cowboys, they seem to play the Eagles, fairly well. I think I think Cooper can win this game. I think Tony Pollard could easily have a nice, effective running game. I trust the Cowboys staff defensively and offensively to confuse Jalen enough to keep this game close or low scoring. Or even if it's Gardner Minshew and Cooper Rush, I'll take what Cooper has around him compared to what Gardner will have around him, depending on what the teams think about doing for this final week. It's a divisional game, and you can throw the records out the window. The Eagles are going to be motivated. The Eagles have been a bit of a hotter team compared to the Cowboys over the last several weeks. But I'm going to take the Cowboys here, just take a better roster. I think they're going to play most of their starters. I don't think they're going to rest a lot of big guys. I just feel like for the Eagles, I don't know if they can learn if the Cowboys play the starters enough to make this game competitive enough for them to win. I think it'll be a closer scoring game because I believe in week 3 they lost 41-20, so they got blown out. I don't think it's going to be a blowout this time. I just feel like the Cowboys, even with Cooper Rush there, if Dak doesn't play, I think the Cowboys win this game and give themselves a nice 12-win season to lock up the number 4 seed in the NFC. And fortunately, probably play the Cardinals in the wild card round, which is probably what they don't want, but we'll see. So that's why I like Dallas here, minus 3.5, and Dallas straight up. The next game, the Cleveland Browns over the Cincinnati Bengals. This is one to where, due to the Saturday game, this game basically will be known as if the Bengals can move up or not. I guess if the Titans lose, could the Bengals take the 2 seed? Sure. But I don't think they're going to lose. So to me, if I'm the Bengals, I'm not going to play a lot of my starters. And if Joe Burrow, who left the game with a knee injury, if he doesn't play and it's Brandon Allen, I think the Bengals lose this game. Nothing against Brandon Allen, but it's one of those things to where the Bengals have already won the AFC North for the first time since 2015. They are probably the scariest team in the AFC that isn't named the Chiefs or the Titans or the Chiefs or the Bills. The one team that nobody's talked about. And I feel like for the Browns, with the Bengals possibly resting some of their guys, depending on what happens, I just don't see a purpose in the Bengals playing meaningful guys long term. They're going to be playing next week anyway. Give those guys some rest. They've already won the division. They've already clinched the playoff spot. I don't think the seeding is going to matter that much. But if I hear something about Zach Taylor saying we're going to play our starters, I'll probably take the Bengals to win the game at +3. Or whatever the new line is. So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to take the Browns because I think the Bengals are going to rest some of their starters. And if they rest Joe Burrow, I think Baker in that roster can beat the Bengals with their backup quarterback. They already beat them in the starting one earlier this year in that other divisional game, 41-16, I believe the score was. And Baker had a great game. He threw 3 touchdowns, couple big ones without Peoples-Jones. So they definitely can beat this team at full strength. But I just think, again, I don't think the Bengals are going to be nearly as motivated for this game, depending on the circumstance of what happens the day before. So if I hear anything about Zach Taylor playing his starters, I will change my pick. Let everybody know. But if But if not, and I think he's going to rest some of the guys, I think the Browns win this game just based off of lack of starter power. So that's why I like the Cleveland Browns here, -3, and the Cleveland Browns straight up. The next game, the Green Bay Packers over the Detroit Lions. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers here because even if you take out a majority of the main guys that are going to be there, I think the Packers just have a good enough roster and good enough depth that they can beat this Lions team. The Lions are not a 2-13-1 football team, probably on paper. They're better than well, I guess I know they're already better than Jackson, but they're better than Houston. They're better than Carolina, probably on paper, or just in heart, in terms of effort and consistency and all that stuff. And I just feel like with the Packers having the 1 seed locked up, and Matt LaFleur becomes the first coach in NFL history to have 3 13-win seasons in his first 3 years. Sensational run by him. Congratulations to him, by the way. Job well done in all accord. I cannot see the Green Bay Packers losing this football game. Because I just think the Lions are so bad. Or like the Lions are so depleted. I know they were up week 2, 17-14 in the first half. And you could say without Rodgers, Jordan Love couldn't win this game. But after just seeing what happened with Seattle, Rashad Penny getting over 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, Russ throwing 4 TDs, I just think the Packers with their backups can beat this Lions team. I think if Jared Goff can come back healthy, that will allow this team to be more competitive. And I feel again, I think Jordan Love and Jared Goff, I think Jared Goff can cover the 11 points. If Jared Goff can't get healthy, and you got Tim Boyle for the 3rd time in 4 weeks, I might change my against the spread pick to Green Bay -11. I'm not sure, but just the way watching the Lions offense and the Lions team, I'm just not sold on that they can even beat the Green Bay Packers backups. Seriously. Like, could they? Sure. And you could argue, Jordan Love could mess up. He could have, a really bad game. Because remember, this would probably be his second career start anyway. But I just think, again, he has enough talent, enough experience, and enough just coaching around him. I think the Packers win this game, regardless of who's out there. If it's Dillon or the 3rd string running back or the backup tight ends or whatever. This is the most meaningless game, because for the Lions, look, they're out of it. A 3rd win would be nice. But nobody would give the Packers any, blame because just like they already had the 1 seed. They already did their job through 16 weeks. So that's why I think Detroit +11 because I just don't think Rodgers and a lot of the main starters are going to be out there because they don't need to be. So that's why I like the Detroit Lions here +11, but the Green Bay Packers straight up. The next game, the Minnesota Vikings over the Chicago Bears. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings here because I believe Kirk Cousins should be back. He should be cleared by the beginning of this week, and if he is able to go, I think the Bears, even as great as they played against the Giants, within 14 seconds they already scored a touchdown off a David Montgomery 2-yard rushing touchdown. The defense was suffocating the whole way through. The Giants really could not move the ball a lick besides Saquon, who got 100 meaningless yards. Andy Dalton played a good game. He kind of went through the Giants' secondary like Swiss cheese. Darryl Mooney caught a nice touchdown. And the Bears just had a nice overall fundamental game. But they're playing a Vikings team that they just played a few weeks ago. It was close. It was nip and tuck. And, if Dalton plays, I think they might have a better shot because Dalton and Foles, they've been able to win more games with them compared to Justin Fields, who I think is 2-8 in his 10 games. I still think Fields is the future, but at the end of the day, with Kirk Cousins back, with that defense going against the Bears' offensive line that, isn't phenomenal, I think the Vikings at home, they're going to be back at home. The Vikings have played pretty well at home this year. I think the Vikings pull out this win over the Bears, if whether it's Dalton, Foles, or Fields, which one. I think the Vikings win this game. And it's another 1 o'clock game, so Kirk Cousins is going to be, at his best in a meaningless 1 o'clock slot. Do I think the Bears have a shot? If they start Dalton, who knows? The Vikings can always choke, and, but this time with both teams being out, this game is just basically draft positioning, so you could argue the process. Whoever team loses, you want your other team to lose to get a better draft pick. So, but I'm going to take the Vikings here, better quarterback, better overall roster. Kirk Cousins coming back should be enough to beat Andy Dalton in this type of game. And I think the Vikings just, end the year off an 8-win season. Mike Zimmer should be fired at the end of the year and never get hired as a head coach again because I think he's overrated. As a coach, he is a great defensive coordinator, and any team out there needs a defensive coordinator, hire Mike Zimmer right away. But as a head coach, I don't think he's that great at all. I actually think he's been one of the more overrated coaches in the league. And if they don't fire him, then he gets another year off or another pass with a 9 to 10 win season. But I digress. Both these coaches should be gone by the end of the year. Hopefully for one of them, they get their last game as a coach as a victory. Sounds like the Minnesota Vikings here -3 and the Minnesota Vikings straight up. The next game, the Washington football team over the New York Giants. I'm taking the Washington football team here because I've watched the Giants for the last 2 to 3 weeks. They're a disaster. They're the worst watching football. None of the receivers can do anything. The defense gets shredded every which way. The quarterback's inept. The running back really, gets meaningless yards. The coach is a moron. Like, there's nothing good about the Giants that you could literally say against a Washington team that's lost 4 straight games, after winning 4 straight games, after getting humiliated by the Cowboys, after losing, who did they lose to the week before? And it's weird because they beat Tampa early this year, and they beat the Raiders earlier, so this is a Washington football team that's been up and down. But right now, they're at their lowest point. They already lost to the Eagles. They lost to the Eagles twice. They lost to the Cowboys twice. Yeah, there you go, yeah. So they've already lost 4 straight divisional games in pretty much decisive fashion. Well, I guess 2 sad games and then 2 close games. But I'm going to take the Washington football team because the Giants have been the worst team out there. Like, they have scored, I think, a grand total of 80 points over the month or over, the last several weeks. Like, they haven't been able to score really anything at all. The defense just looks beat up and battered. The coach just doesn't... And I just feel like, again, Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team, you at least can see fight in the football team. And consistency, and they were still trying to battle, and they're still trying to battle in this game, even though both teams are out of contention. But the Giants just, Dolphins, bleh. Bears, bleh. Cowboys, bleh. The last 4 or 5 weeks of Giants football, it's been brutal. It's been probably the worst in the entire league outside of Jacksonville and maybe the Texans. Well, actually, outside of Jacksonville. It's probably been the worst football out there. And I just think, again, Washington, they have a little bit more defensive talent. They have a better quarterback. They have, they should get Gibson back. And I just think Washington is a better overall team feeling and environment compared to the Giants right now. I can't believe the Giants aren't going to fire their coach after he said this, stupid press conference the other day talking about how players want to play for him, and there's a bunch of free agents, and there's former players that have called him and said he still wanted to be part of the Giants, which I wouldn't want to be. But I just think, again, Washington Giants, it's a meaningless game, but the Washington football team has at least shown fight, put up good effort. The Giants, ever since they lost Daniel Jones, have shown that they are just a horrible, horrendous football team with a lot of holes on the offensive side of the football that they need to fix. And they need to fire Timmy Toughnuts, shout out to Dan Orlovsky, Joe Judge, even though they're not, but they should fire him at the beginning of next year because I just think he's a horrible, horrible coach. So that's why I like Washington here, -6.5, and Washington straight up. The next game, the Indianapolis Colts over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are the worst team in the league. And the Colts, though they blew a huge opportunity against the Raiders, they're playing the Jags. If the Pats can beat them by 40, the Colts can at least beat them by 24. I'll put it that way. I didn't think that, I thought that 15.5 point spread was pretty massive. And I was like, well, the Pats haven't been that great. And, it's Mac Jones. But it was clear after watching Sunday, Trevor Lawrence might be the most overhyped #1 overall pick in NFL history. Okay, maybe Jamarcus Russell. Okay, that's fair. But Trevor Lawrence, this man, is he any good? I'm just going to put it out there. It might be hot take central over here, but I'm just going to put it out. Is he any good? Because if I were the Jags and watching Sunshine, a man that has no care for football, he did a great, and the reason why I said that was there's a Sports Illustrated article in April saying that he, if he could leave football tomorrow, he wouldn't have any regret in the world. He has no drive to be better. And after just watching him, and I know how bad the team is he any good? Because I think the Jags got sold a horrible bag of goods. Because out of the 5 quarterbacks in that draft class, he's the worst one. I've seen Justin Fields have brighter moments. I've seen Zach Wilson have some bright moments. Mac Jones, the clear frontrunner of that whole class. And even Trey Lance the other day played a good game to where, I see some promise. I see nothing out of Trevor Lawrence. I just see a 6'6", 6'6" Hanson wannabe. The boy band in the 90s, Hanson, who he fits perfectly with the hair. A Hanson wannabe that is a non-caring, smiling, person that for the Jags, you really want to know, is he any good? Because he should not have had 3 passing touchdowns since November 1st. And that's what he has. Through 8 games since then, he has thrown 3 touchdowns in 8 games for 2 months. That is horrifying. That is concerning. And that is, even though we could say, well, if you add the talent and you have all the cap room, but the guy that has very little competitive drive and really doesn't care about football in a way that Jacksonville needs him to, that's the biggest concern I have about them. The Colts, look, the Colts are a dominant team. They blew them out the last time. They're not the big story because they should roll over them. But that's the big story for this game is Trevor Lawrence any good? Because I think he's going to be under the most pressure out of any player going into their second year or going into the year next year. Because if he can't improve, even if you get talent and get a competent coach or you can see improvement, this is going to be a massive bust for the Jags, and he's going to be maybe one of the biggest busts in NFL history due to the hype that he had going into his draft. So, sorry for a little diatribe there, but I have the Colts. That's why the Colts just clearly better defensive, better offensive team, and the Jags just are clearly the worst team in the league. So it should be an easy winning in for them. And the Colts, for the second consecutive year, beat the Jags to make the playoffs. And they should have a little bit of redemption because the only win the Jags had last year was in Jacksonville against this Colts team. Most of those guys were there, so I'm pretty sure they would like some redemption for that reason as well. So that's why the Indianapolis Colts are minus 15.5 and the Indianapolis Colts straight up. The next game, the Baltimore Ravens over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a game to where I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens because I think the Ravens will play a bit better and will play better than the Steelers. The Steelers, last time, they played them tough, came down to that horrible 2-point conversion, and, everybody knows the end of that one. But after seeing what Ben's done against the Chiefs, seeing what he'll do against the Browns, they could win. I just think if Lamar or Huntley can come back, what I've seen out of the Ravens, who in this 5-game losing streak, 3 of those 5 losses have come by, or 4 of those 5 losses have come by 2 points or less. So, at the end of the day, me taking the Ravens here at home with Lamar coming back, with the Steelers playing for nothing, it's basically going to be, can the Steelers' emotion of Big Ben's probable final game in Baltimore and beating a division rival, can the Ravens end Big Ben's Pittsburgh career on a low note in Pittsburgh at home? And I think the Ravens, with their roster, with the guys they should get back from the COVID list, from injury, if Lamar gets back, I think they should be able to win this game. I'm taking Pittsburgh plus 4.5 because, again, like I said before, 10 of the last 20-plus games, I'm down by 3 points or less. So essentially, if this was a 2 or fewer spread, I would probably take Baltimore to win on the line, giving me 4 points in a game that usually comes down to a field goal game. I'll take Pittsburgh to cover the 4.5. Could the Steelers win this game? Absolutely, because Huntley could mess up. TJ Watt and that defense were phenomenal last time around. The offense was struggling a bit, and the Ravens are basically playing for nothing. They're still alive for the playoffs, but they need the Colts to lose to the Jags. That's not happening. So they're officially out by proxy, even if it's not official. But I'm going to take the Ravens here. They're at home. It would be a great way for the season to end on a nice, positive Big Ben final note, beating him at home and ending Big Ben's career on a big fat L. I just think the Ravens, they just have a little more talent and a little bit more of a consistency that they should be able to finally close a game in a way that the Steelers can. Should be a great game. It's going to be kind of a bittersweet day and a weird day to see Big Ben play his final game for the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against us. But I think it's a great way for the Ravens fans to end his career on a losing L on that plane ride or bus ride back to Pittsburgh in this divisional game. So that's like the Baltimore Ravens here to win straight up at the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 4.5. The next game, the Tennessee Titans over the Houston Texans. I am taking the Tennessee Titans here to win this football game based on the fact that the Titans understand what's at stake here. Julio Jones should clear the COVID list, and the Texans, for as great as they've been over the last few weeks, playing Seattle well, winning back-to-back games, which nobody expected, and getting 4 wins, which was a better probably over-under than anybody thought, the Titans understand what's at stake here. Derrick Henry can practice and come back in a couple weeks, but he should be back for the playoffs. They're going to probably get the 1 seed, so we'll get another week off to rest. Tannehill threw 4 interceptions last time at home. I don't think he's going to turn the ball over that much again. I think the Houston defense has shown that they can't really stop the run effectively, and I think D'Onta Foreman, who's played really well for the Titans in a surprising way, should be able to control the ground game. And I just think Tannehill will play a more efficient and clean game. I think Julio and AJ being back will stretch that Houston defense. I don't really like Houston's offense. I think that Tennessee's defense, after getting another couple turnovers on Tua, they should get another few turnovers on Davis Mills, who threw a horrible interception to Marcel Harris, even though that was debatable about the forward progress movement. But I think the Titans are just clearly the better football team. They're motivated. They understand what they did last time. If Tannehill does not turn the ball over 4 times, I do not think the Texans will win this football game. And the Titans, with their run control, their consistency, and Tannehill's management, they should be able to beat the Texans to get to a 12th win and number 1 seed. And the coach of the year should be Mr. Mike Vrabel, hands down, no questions. With everything he's had to go through. So that's all. The Tennessee Titans here, minus 11, and the Tennessee Titans straight up. The next game, the New Orleans Saints over the Atlanta Falcons. This is one to where I'm going to take the Saints, because I feel like for the Saints, they have played a bit better, and I trust the Saints defense to make a few more plays compared to the Falcons. The Falcons, actually, for the weird part, through the first half of that game, genuinely played well with the Bills. They actually took the lead after Josh Allen went on a stretch where he threw 3 interceptions in 4 attempts, which was stunning to me. I was thinking again, the Saints, Taysom Hill was back. Simeon played the other time. I think Taysom should be able to be the difference maker in this game with his legs, be able to carry the Saints to this victory. But with the Falcons, Kyle Pitts, I do want to congratulate him. He joins Mike Ditka as the only rookie tight ends with 1,000-yard seasons. But I'm going to take the Saints here. I think better defense. They're playing for something. And just the Falcon and Saints defense-wise, Cam Jordan had 3.5 sacks yesterday against the Carolina Panthers offensive line. I think Matt Ryan's going to have a tough time if they double Pitts, because nobody else really can make plays. But I guess in a way, this game just, back in week 6 or 7 earlier in the season, it came down to a Young Hoku kick that he made to get the game-winning field goal. I think for the Falcons, again, this is going to be one of those tough games. The Falcons, have shown that they can put up a fight, for part of a game. And if Taysom Hill can't make his plays with his legs and his arm, I think the Falcons can win. But I think Taysom's legs and his decision-making will be the difference here for the Saints to win. I think Atlanta at home with a familiar division rival, with the limited lack of Saints offense, and just how dominant the Saints defense is. I think the Saints defense causes 1 or 2 more stops and turnovers compared to the Falcons, and they win this game. I'm going to take Atlanta just out of home field respect and division rivalry, and these 2 teams are more similar and different in their way. So that's like the New Orleans Saints here to win straight up at the Atlanta Falcons plus 4.5. The next game, the Buffalo Bills over the New York Jets. Look, the Bills are clearly better than the Jets. There's really not much to talk about. The only reason why I took the Jets plus 17 was based on the fact that I think Zach Wilson can cover the game. Mike White threw 4 interceptions last time those 2 teams played. I do want to congratulate Devin Singletary, though, for his first 100-yard rushing game in 2 years against the Falcons. And I want to congratulate the Bills for making the playoffs and winning the AFC East for back-to-back years. It's the first time, I guess, since 20 years that the Patriots aren't going to win the division. Since, back-to-back years since before 2001? Wow. Or since they realigned, that's something to think about. Where, for the first time, the Pats aren't winning the division in back-to-back, in consecutive years or in back-to-back years. And for the Bills, look, I think that, they finally got their running game going against the Falcons, and the Jets defense isn't that much better, if not worse, than the Falcons defense. Though I do want to congratulate C.J. Mosley for having the second most tackles by a Jets linebacker in franchise history. That was stunning. I think it was Thomas Davis or it's the guy that plays for Jonathan Vilma. Yeah, I think it was Jonathan Vilma, who was the other guy that had the most tackles. I think it was second. I'm sorry, Jonathan Vilma had the most tackles as well. But I'm gonna take the Jets here plus 17 because I think Zach Wilson can play well enough where if he doesn't turn it over 4 times. And I know he's did that against the Pats already. So, and I know the Bills, they have the number 1 team. They have the biggest point differential in the entire league. So they should, they could cover 17 points. I just think with Josh Allen's play, he could have a really great game. I'm expecting him to have a better middle game. And I think that should be enough to cover 17 points with Zach Wilson's ability. But we'll see. We'll see. But I just feel like with Zach Wilson, he showed you over the last couple of weeks that he can play okay and keep games closer than you think against some much better competition. So that's like the Buffalo Bills here to win straight up with the New York Jets plus 17. The next game, the New England Patriots over the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to take the Patriots here because I just think the Pats, they have more confidence. They're playing better. They've scored 50 points for the second time this year. And the Miami Dolphins just, I think back in week 1, this was a 17-16 game. Damian Harris fumbled at the 9-yard line. If he doesn't fumble, the Pats already would have won this game anyway. And the Dolphins I just don't have a lot of confidence. I know they're at home, and the Patriots have had a long history of having. I think Tom Brady has a losing record as a Patriot in Miami, and the Pats for years have gone on to Miami and have lost weird and bizarre games in clinching scenarios. So the Dolphins beating the Patriots in Miami would not be that surprising. I just think with this team, Brian Flores should be fired at the end of this year. 2 losing seasons in 3 years. I know people are going to talk about the 7-game win streak, but the man's a bum. The man sucks. And he's a Belichick disciple, so what a big surprise there. The only way Brian Flores keeps his job, in my opinion, is if Brian Flores was the coach to Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson wants Brian Flores to be his coach, then he gets to keep his job. If Brian Flores does not matter in the equation for Deshaun Watson coming down to Miami, then Brian Flores should be fired at the end of this year because the man is not a very good coach. Tua has a lot of questions on him, and if you could give Tua away to somebody, I would do that. But I don't think people are sold on Tua. The defense is great. They have a lot of great young defensive and expensive pieces in their secondary. They have Jalen Phillips. They have Van Ginkel. They have the former Patriot. Or no, I'm sorry. No, he went to the Pats or the Dolphins. They have good safeties. They have a really good. Jalen Waddle's been phenomenal. Gesicki is a good tight end. So they have some pieces. I just think with Tua, he's not the answer going forward. And I think the Dolphins are going to have to make a decision about trying to get an upgrade or some competition for Tua because they can't go into year 3 with Tua's track record of beating a lot of bad or mediocre teams that if they had Ryan Fitzpatrick, they could have beaten as well. Or having a real legitimate franchise guy. Also, I just think the Pats are going to be motivated. They understand the division's on the line for them. And watching what they did against Trevor Lawrence, I think they can do the same thing to Tua. Tua threw a horrible pick in that game before. I just think Mac Jones plays a cleaner game. And Damian doesn't. The Pats win the turnover battle, and the Pats win the game based off of that. Could the Dolphins win? Sure. But I think the Pats' defense is way too talented. The Dolphins' offense, they double Waddle. Tua really doesn't have any other big weapon to throw to besides Gesicki. I would take McCourty on Gesicki any day, 1-1. And I think the Patriots just win this game based off of their consistency, learning from week 1 and where they are at the season. Nobody knew from week 1. If you said the Dolphins were 1-0 and the Pats were 0-1, nobody knew at this point this year where the Pats could make the playoffs back at 10-6, and the Dolphins, after winning 7 straight, are a 500 football team once again that has a lot of problems moving forward, in my opinion. So that's why I like New England here, -6, and New England straight up. The next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Carolina Panthers. I am taking Tampa Bay here to win this game based off the fact that they have Tom Brady. And even though he will not have Antonio Brown, and everybody, I'm not going to go into that scenario. Everybody that's a football fan understands what happened yesterday with Antonio Brown. But I think the Bucs, again, they just played this Panthers team just 2 weeks ago. Blew them out. I think the Bucs, even with Tyler Johnson, Cyril Grayson, O.J. Howard, Gronk, Jalen Darton, Scotty Miller, Rashad Perryman, Mike Evans, all those guys there, they should be able to win this game by at least 8 points. Sam Darnold played better than Cam Newton, which is a sad thing because that gives Sam one final start. But the Matt Rule experiment is an absolute failure. That man who quoted Jay-Z, and I blacked him a couple weeks ago, is a horrible coach. He will be on one of the hottest seats going into next year because that team has really no bright spot at all. None. There is nothing on the Panthers' name besides Brian Burns that you could look at and go, man, do we have something special? You could say, well, you have Robbie Anderson. Well, he disappeared. DJ Moore, he disappeared. Sam Darnold has to come back. Woo, that's a great sign. And it's just like, that Panthers team, there is not a lot of optimism. And if there's no Deshaun Watson and you have to keep Sam Darnold, you're going with a rookie and Sam Darnold as your quarterbacks? Good luck with that. Like I said, I think if I was Matt Rule, once that Oklahoma and LSU job opened up, I would have called my agent and said, give me a meeting with those guys at college. I'd rather go to a great college program than be stuck at where I'm at the Panthers right now. So, but also, just one quick thing. I think Tampa, look, they're clearly the better team. Brady should be able to throw against a very weak Panthers defense. Darnold should give the Bucs enough mistakes and not be able to play well enough. They just saw him 2 weeks ago. Just one quick thing about the Bucs. There is a man out there that people maybe haven't talked about that they should consider signing. How about Arizona Cardinals legendary wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald? Larry Fitzgerald's good friends with Jim Gray, who is very good, or is a good colleague of Tom Brady's. And Larry played for Bruce Arians back in his days in Arizona, and he loves Coach Arians. And if I were the Bucs, I'd call Larry and say, hey, we need you here for 4 games. You have 4 games left in you. If you can play 4 games for us, if you can put Mike Evans and Fitzgerald out there as a tandem with Tom out there, that would be good enough, I think, for Larry to at least sign up for 4 more games. After that, he could retire, go into the Hall of Fame. But Larry would be a slam dunk decision. He's one of the most respected, well-liked, professional wide receivers out there. You'd have no issue to worry about character. You'd actually get a lot of good press for giving Larry Fitzgerald this opportunity. Cardinal fans might be upset. And any Cardinal fan that watched me shout to Gavin OC. Understand, I'm not trying to make, don't make Larry the villain here, okay? He didn't want to come back. And I know it would be sad that, Larry would choose to go to the Bucs for 1 ring. But out of everybody out there, if there was a Karl Malone, Gary Payton type of guy that you'd want to see win a ring, isn't it number 11 Fitz? Isn't it Fitz? Just saying. Isn't it Fitzgerald? Because that would be the guy I would want to see have an opportunity to win a ring, is Larry Fitzgerald. So, again, Tampa, I'm taking Tampa Bay -8 because they're clearly the better team. They just played this team a couple weeks ago, and the Panthers just a big disaster. But for the Bucs, Larry Fitzgerald should be the way to go moving forward because he's a veteran receiver. He just needs 4. You need 4 games out of him. Just give him the week off against the Panthers. Let him know the system, whatever. Or he already knows the system. Let him just get his sea legs wet. Call Fitz, ask him for 4 games in the postseason, and we'll see what happens. And then after that, he can retire maybe with another title and go on his merry way, and the Bucs can focus on re-signing Chris Godwin. So that's my little thought about that. So that's like Tampa Bay here, -8, and Tampa Bay straight up. The next game, the Los Angeles Rams over the San Francisco 49ers. I am taking the LA Rams here based on the fact of, I think for me, it's the health of Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo had last week, or 2 Thursdays ago, suffered a UCL sprain and a fracture, I think, in his pinky, and he did not play last week, and he's debatable about this week. They're saying it's likely he'll go, but I would not test him. I would not push him. Kyle Shanahan has a winning record. They're not going to fire him if they miss the playoffs. He did well enough. So I would let Trey Lance play this game just to save Jimmy his health and let Jimmy get the surgery and just move on. And I think with Trey Lance starting, even though I know, here's the thing. I'm taking I think the Rams, look, Stafford has not played well. He's thrown off. He threw another pick 6 against the Ravens yesterday. He had 3 turnovers overall. He had that, Cooper Kupp, who is now the all-time single-season leader for the Rams in terms of reception yards and touchdowns. So, job well done to him. And he's still leading in the Triple Crown for the Rams. Odell with 2 big catches, especially that 4th down one. Aaron Donald and Von Miller coming out with huge sacks and tackles at the end of the game to clinch the game. Jalen pretty much holding down the fort on Marquise Brown, and any outside receiver. I just think if Trey Lance is starting, even if Jimmy is starting and not 100%, I think the Rams finally get this victory. Because they understand the opportunity here. Because I believe if the Saints win and the Niners lose, the Saints make the playoffs over the Niners, unless I think the Vikings have to win, which I give the Niners the edge there. But if they can knock out the 49ers to make the playoffs, and the Rams are going to be playing their starters anyway, because they still want to try to win the NFC West. Because if they lose and the Cardinals win the NFC West. But I'm going to take the Rams here because a non-100% Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, I just do not see him making that many big plays against the Rams defense in his third career start. Could he win this game? Sure. And could the Niners just bully the crap out of Stafford and them like they did before? Sure, they could. And Trey Lance could actually make some more plays than Jimmy because of his legs. But at the end of the day, I think the Rams, they understand what's at stake here. They could get Cam Akers back playing this week. Sony Michel's done well enough. And I think the Rams, they're going to take all this anger and frustration over the last 5 games and take it out on the Niners to win this game and knock the Niners potentially out of the playoffs with this win and win the NFC West and clinch the number 2 seed. I'm going to take the Niners plus 5.5 because I'm going to respect that 5-game win streak. They've won 5 straight times. So if the Niners won 6 straight times and knock the Rams out and give the Cardinals the division, good for them. And the Niners basically get the 6 seed, the Eagles get the 7, and it would be the Eagles-Cardinals, and it would be the Bucks-Niners, Bucks-Niners, and it would be Rams-Cowboys, which would be a really interesting and fun game if that shakes out. But I think the Rams win and the Niners lose. I still think the Niners get in because I think the Niners get a help from the Vikings win, but we'll see. But I'm going to the Niners plus 5.5 because of the 5-game win streak, so who knows. So that's why I like the Los Angeles Rams here straight up with the San Francisco 49ers plus 5.5. The next game, the Arizona Cardinals over the Seattle Seahawks. In the Battle of the Birds, the Cardinals are just the better football team. They're going to be playing their starters. They should get James Conner back. DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be that big of a factor. If they could beat the Seahawks in Seattle with Colt McCoy and whatever they had left on that roster, with Kyler Murray back, they should be able to win this one. Last time they were in Arizona last year, Russell Wilson threw 3 interceptions in that stadium. It was a dreadful game. I think the Seahawks are going to play a bit better, but they also, from what I just heard, Bobby Wagner has a mild PCL sprain, so he's going to be out. And that injury enough for me is big enough reason to pick the Cardinals plus minus 6.5. No Bobby Wagner, literally the 2 main guys in their defense out for this game. I think that defense is going to get shredded by a Cardinal offense that found itself. I think A.J. Green's going to have a great game. I think Edmonds and Connor should be back healthy to play and run in this game. I think the Cardinals handle their business and win at least by 10 points. Against the Seahawks team that got their nice, happy win over the Lions. They handled their business and it was all fun. But that was the last bit of fun they're going to have. And the Cardinals go in there and get a 12-win season under Kingsbury, who gets to maintain his job and arguably win the NFC West if the Niners beat the Rams. So, great year for the Cardinals. If they get to play the Cowboys again, that'll be a fun game to think about for both teams. So, that's why the Arizona Cardinals are minus 6.5 and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. And finally, in the last game 272 of the season, the Los Angeles Chargers over the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm taking the Los Angeles Chargers here to beat the Raiders based off the quarterback. Both these teams have awkward running games. The Chargers can't stop the run. The Raiders really don't like the run. The defenses have great core pieces. Kicking, you have to get the special team edge to the Raiders. But it just comes down to quarterback. And I just think in this game, Justin Herbert outplays Derek Carr. Could the Raiders win this game? Sure. I think it's downright amazing the Raiders are in this spot to be in a game, win-and-in scenario. But I'm going to take the Chargers because I think Herbert outplays Carr and the Chargers get that last spot. I think Herbert has been more dynamic. I think Herbert has better weapons. I think the Chargers have the better coaching staff. I think the Chargers will make the right aggressive decisions when they have to in order to keep this game from being close or to at least maintain possession and hold the drive compared to the Raiders. If it comes down to a kicking battle, Carlson's going to win. But I don't think it's going to be that close. I think the Chargers, with their talent, with their explosiveness, they decisively beat them in Week 3. Both these teams have been different, since that point. Versace is 6-5 as the interim coach, and I will say this as well: if Versace wins this game, he's the permanent head coach moving forward. You strip the interim tag off. There's your new coach. If he doesn't, he should get an interview. But I wouldn't make him the permanent coach even if he loses. He gets an interview, he might get the first interview. But he's not the permanent head coach if he loses this Sunday. If he wins, he's the permanent head coach moving forward. Job well done to him. But I'm going to take the Chargers here. Better staff, better talent, and just a better quarterback in this moment. And I think Herbert, under the lights, he won in Vegas last year. I think he gets another win over them this year. I don't think he's lost to them so far. No, he has. He's lost. No, yeah, so I think the Chargers pull this one out based off Herbert outplaying Carr. Phenomenal game. Happy this game is the last primetime game of the year in Las Vegas. John Madden team in the big spotlight. How awesome is this? So that's like Los Angeles Chargers -3 and Los Angeles Chargers straight up. Alright, so those are my thoughts, comments, and picks for this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page to check out other great prognosticators such as Half Moon's Picks, Bridgewater's Finest, Andrew Warren, Big Sports Talking, Geo Knows, all those guys and gals to make predictions just like I do. And until next week, good luck to anybody playing fantasy football in their final week, week 18. I know I am out, but I am winning my consolation game so far, so I'll take that. But good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fantasy players, and fellow prognosticators to end this regular season. What a great week 18 we have set up here. And until next week for my wild card predictions, this is Matt the Fanatic signing off. Until next time, so long.